Hey everybody, Joshua Fields Milburn here from the Minimalists. Welcome back to Living Room Conversations. Today's question is from Kevin. Kevin says, on your podcast, you often say advertisements suck. But aren't you advertising when you talk about your books, your tour stops, or your writing class? Isn't that advertising? Well, I mean, the short answer to that is no, but let me rephrase your question real quick, Kevin. If I were to rephrase your question, I would say, what's the difference between marketing and advertising? And I wrote a whole essay about this. It's a long essay, but it's a deep exploration into the history of advertising, but also differentiating it from what's going on in marketing and being considerate to other people and in creating as well. So, no, you're absolutely right. Ryan and I don't do any advertisements on our podcast, and we don't put advertisements, banner ads, or even pop-ups on our website. And that's because it doesn't align with what we want to accomplish with what we're creating. However, when we do create something that we're really proud of, then we go out of our way to put it in front of people in a way that is authentic and courteous, but certainly not spammy. That's called marketing. So I'm going to just read a few short excerpts. I'll put a link to this essay as well in the show description or the video description below. But it's called Can We Have an Honest Conversation About Advertisements? Now, the beginning of the essay basically goes like this. If the following screed were a peer-reviewed journal article, its abstract would be brief. Advertisements suck. Well, at least most of them do. That's not to say that all advertising is inherently evil or even bad, because not all advertisements are created equal. They run the gamut from informative to downright destructive. To understand the inherent problems with advertisements, though, it's important to first point out that advertising is not the same thing as marketing. Though these two terms are often used interchangeably, they are different in practice. Advertisements are paid announcements via a public medium. Mattress commercials, infomercials for the latest exercise fad, and seemingly harmless adverts for harmful prescription drugs. They are generally not endorsements by the platform on which they are displayed. So think about that for a second. If you turn on the news right now, if you flip on CNN, for every 30 minutes, you get about 8 minutes of commercials. So 22 minutes of content, and then you get 8 minutes of commercials. Those aren't necessarily endorsements by that channel, right? If you flip on ABC or ESPN, you're watching basketball, and all of a sudden a beer ad comes up, Budweiser or something like that. That doesn't mean that the whatever channel or organ that advertisement is on is endorsing that product. They're not saying, I think you or we think you as a company should, we believe you should go out and drink Budweiser. No, they're saying this is acceptable for us to advertise this product or service. Now, obviously, they'll draw the line somewhere. If a neo-Nazi group came to CNN and offered them to advertise on their platform, I would hope they would say no, right? So they have their own discretion. However, barring some crazy circumstance like that, these aren't endorsements, and they don't necessarily reflect the values of a organization, right? They're simply an advertisement for a product or service, and the job of the advertiser is to aggregate as many eyeballs as possible onto their product and service by paying for spots on media outlets that already have a large number of eyeballs, and in hopes that they can bring people over to their product. So in hopes that they'll spend $1,000 on something and they'll get more than $1,000 in return, right? That is the great hope. However, that is different from marketing a product or service. So if I am on the podcast, I talk about a book that I wrote, like Everything That Remains. It's a book I'm really proud of, and it's a book I spent a lot of time on. And if you were to have your own show or you have your own blog, and maybe say you make tables as an example, then you make this beautiful, beautiful table. Let's say you made this table, it's this coffee table that's right behind me right here, maybe this dining room table. You feel really good about that product that you made. Then communicating that with the world is a way to market your product. And the way that I do it is, well, Ryan and I both do it, is we work really hard to create most of the stuff that we create for free, to add value to people's lives without any sort of expectation of any monetary gain in return. However, when we create something that we want to charge money for, like a book, or I'll give you an example, I have a writing class that is tomorrow. So here's me marketing to you for a second. I teach, twice a year I teach this How to Write Better workshop, and I show people how to establish a writing habit, and I walk them through the communication process, the expressiveness of writing, also the difference between composition and editing, and I show people how to use technology, the new technologies, in order to publish their work, whether that's email or blogging, or if it is writing your first book, or maybe your next book if you've written more than one book. And I've been able to help people from high school students to medical doctors, literally, have taken my writing class and also this 2-hour writing workshop. And what I do is I help people find a way to write better. However, I don't overpromise. I don't go to people via some sort of advertised medium and say, hey, what I'm going to do in 2 hours is completely transform the way you write. No, I'll put you on the path toward improving your writing with some tips and tricks, hoping that you make a 15-degree pivot, not a full 180, a 15-degree pivot, because 2 months from now, 3 months from now, a year from now, that will put you in a radically different destination. Anyway, that is a type of marketing. And in order to do that, I've built an audience and found a way to add value via a bunch of free podcasts, a bunch of free writings, a bunch of these free videos here on YouTube, and using social media to communicate with people, finding ways to add value to people's lives. And then when I do have a product or service that I want to talk about, I have the opportunity to do that because people trust me. So let's talk about marketing for a second. Toward the end of the essay that I mentioned, that you can find somewhere down there in the show description, I also talk about the upside to advertising as well. So I'm not trying to say that all advertisements are evil and we should get rid of all advertisements. We should make them illegal. There's a section where I talk about where some countries have done that, and there are various degrees of arguments as to whether or not that's a good thing, and we can go through that. It's certainly worth talking about, and I try to at least start the conversation in that essay. But toward the end, I talk about marketing, and I say the flip side of advertising isn't the absence of communication, it's marketing. So advertising isn't the only way that we can communicate effectively with other people. In fact, I would argue that it's not a very effective way to communicate at all. The best way to communicate is without expectation of monetary gain. And then, of course, if you help people solve problems, eventually you will find a way to make money. And that's just, that's how the market works, right? That's how capitalism works, that we solve people's problems and they were willing to pay for solutions, right? And so it's not the absence of communication, it's marketing. In his book, The Mindset of Marketing Your Music, Derek Sivers, who's been on the podcast before, he wrote, "Don't confuse the word marketing with advertising, announcing, spamming, or giving away branded crap. Really, marketing just means being considerate. Marketing means making it easy for people to notice you, relate to you, remember you, and tell their friends about you." What Derek Sivers is describing here is the most honest form of marketing, informing people without manipulating or bothering them. At its ethical zenith, marketing considers the needs and points of view of an audience and works hard to meet those needs by connecting the creators with consumers in an authentic way. In neutral terms, marketing is an unpaid endorsement, often by the creator herself, communicated directly to an audience who's eager to learn more about the product or service. When done well, this is what Seth Godin describes as permission marketing. Quote, "The privilege, not the right, of delivering anticipated, personal, and relevant messages to people who actually want to get them. It is possible to engage in world-class marketing without spending a penny on advertising." So this is back to me saying this here. True, both advertising and marketing are forms of promotion. They allow creators to present their goods and services to a group of people. And when executed poorly, even well-intended marketing can be overkill. Like advertisements, not all marketing messages are created equal. I think you and I see that all the time, where people get on Twitter and they think the reason, if you go back to my Twitter feed, there's very rarely I'm certainly not advertising anything ever, but very rarely am I even marketing anything. I'm just trying to get some ideas and thoughts out there. And occasionally I'll say, hey, I've got this writing class coming up this weekend, or hey, this book I wrote just came out. If you want to check it out, here it is. But it's not about beating people over the head with those messages. Too often we see businesses or even individuals say, hey, check out my SoundCloud page or listen to my podcast. They're just bombarding us with noise. And what I try to do is try to have a much higher signal to noise ratio. I want to have as little noise as possible. I don't want to add to the overall noise because we're in a noisy digital world these days. And so I want to go out of my way to produce meaningful creations that add value to other people's lives. And hopefully hopefully you'll do the same. And when you do so, in order to get that out, that marketing is the final step of the creative process. Quite often as creatives, we get allergic to saying, I want to get my product or service out into the world. Like I created, I'm really happy about it, but I'm allergic to telling people about this thing that I'm proud of. Then my question is, how proud are you of it really? Because if you write a book that no one reads, then why write the book at all? Find a way to engage an audience so they're eager to engage with whatever you're creating. And that's what good marketing can do. I'll put a link to that essay here at the bottom. If you have more questions, leave it below in the comment section. I'll answer it during Living Room Conversations. And if you like these answers, you can subscribe to the channel. And if you want to go to my class, my writing class this weekend, it's just howtowritebetter.org. I'll put a link to that as well at the writing workshop. It's 2 hours, howtowritebetter.org. All right, y'all. See you tomorrow.